Somaliland. Coordinates, 9 degrees 45 and 45 degrees 58 E, 9.750 degrees north 45.967 degrees east, 9.750, 45.967. Somaliland, Somali, Somaliland, Arabic, Ṣūmālīlānd, art as Ṣūmāl, officially the Republic of Somaliland, Somali, Jamhuuriyadda Somaliland, Arabic, Jumhūrīyat Ṣūmālīlānd, is a self-declared state, internationally considered to be an autonomous region of Somalia. The government of the de facto state of Somaliland regards itself as the successor state to the former British Somaliland Protectorate, which, in the form of the briefly independent state of Somaliland, united as scheduled on July 1, 1960 with the Trust Territory of Somaliland, the former Italian Somaliland, to form the Somali Republic. Somaliland lies in northwestern Somalia, on the southern coast of the Gulf of Aden. It is bordered by the remainder of Somalia, per international recognition, to the east, Djibouti to the northwest, and Ethiopia to the south and west. Its claimed territory has an area of 176,120 square kilometers, 68,000 square miles, with approximately 4 million residents. The capital and the largest city is Hargeisa, with a population of around 1,500,000 residents. In 1988, the Siad Barre government began a crackdown against the Hargeisa-based Somali National Movement, SNM, and other militant groups, which were among the events that led to the Somali Civil War. The conflict left the country's economic and military infrastructure severely damaged. Following the collapse of Barre's government in early 1991, local authorities, led by the SNM, unilaterally declared independence from Somalia on 18 May of the same year and reinstated the borders of the former short-lived independent state of Somaliland. Since then, the territory has been governed by democratically elected governments that seek international recognition as the government of the Republic of Somaliland, Somali, Dawlat Jamhuuriyadda Somaliland, Arabic, Dawlat Jumhūrīyat Ṣūmālīlānd. The central government maintains informal ties with some foreign governments, who have sent delegations to Hargeisa. Ethiopia also maintains a trade office in the region. However, Somaliland's self-proclaimed independence remains unrecognized by any country or international organization. It is a member of the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization, an advocacy group whose members consist of indigenous peoples, minorities and unrecognized or occupied territories. History. Prehistory. Somaliland has been inhabited since at least the Paleolithic. During the Stone Age, the Duan and Hargeisa cultures flourished here. The oldest evidence of burial customs in the Horn of Africa comes from cemeteries in Somalia dating back to the 4th millennium BCE. The stone implements from the Jalalo site in the north were also characterized in 1909 as important artifacts demonstrating the archaeological universality during the Paleolithic between the east and the west. According to linguists, the first Afro-Asiatic-speaking populations arrived in the region during the ensuing Neolithic period from the family's proposed Jumhūrīyat, original homeland, in the Nile Valley, or the Near East. The Lawsgale complex on the outskirts of Hargeisa in northwestern Somalia dates back around 5,000 years, and has rock art depicting both wild animals and decorated cows. Other cave paintings are found in the northern Dumbalan region, which feature one of the earliest known depictions of a hunter on horseback. The rock art is in the distinctive Ethiopian Arabian style, dated to 1000 to 3000 BCE. Additionally, between the towns of Las Kori and El Ao in northern Somalia lies Karinagain, the site of numerous cave paintings of real and mythical animals. Each painting has an inscription below it, which collectively have been estimated to be around 2,500 years old. Antiquity and Classical Era. Ancient pyramidical structures, mausoleums, ruined cities and stone walls, such as the Wargate Wall, are evidence of an old civilization that once thrived in the Somali Peninsula. This civilization enjoyed a trading relationship with ancient Egypt and Mycenaean Greece since the 2nd millennium BCE, supporting the hypothesis that Somalia or adjacent regions were the location of the ancient land of Punt. The Puntites traded myrrh, spices, gold, ebony, short-horned cattle, ivory and frankincense with the Egyptians, Phoenicians, Babylonians, Indians, Chinese and Romans through their commercial ports. An Egyptian expedition sent to Punt by the 18th dynasty Queen Hatshepsut is recorded on the temple reliefs at Deir el-Bahari, during the reign of the Puntite King Parhu and Queen Nadi. In 2015, isotopic analysis of ancient baboon mummies from Punt that had been brought to Egypt as gifts indicated that the specimens likely originated from an area encompassing eastern Somalia and the Eritrea-Ethiopia corridor. The camel is believed to have been domesticated in the Horn region sometime between the 2nd and 3rd millennium BCE. From there, it spread to Egypt and the Maghreb. During the Classical period, the northern Berber city-states of Masilon, Opone, Mundus, Isis, Malao, Avilites, Essina, Nikon, and Serapion developed a lucrative trade network, connecting with merchants from Ptolemaic Egypt, ancient Greece, Phoenicia, Parthian Persia, Saba, the Nabatean Kingdom, and the Roman Empire. They used the ancient Somali maritime vessel known as the Beaten to transport their cargo. After the Roman conquest of the Nabatean Empire and the Roman naval presence at Aden to curb piracy, Arab and Somali merchants agreed with the Romans to bar Indian ships from trading in the free port cities of the Arabian Peninsula to protect the interests of Somali and Arab merchants in the lucrative commerce between the Red and Mediterranean seas. However, Indian merchants continued to trade in the port cities of the Somali Peninsula, which was free from Roman interference. For centuries, Indian merchants brought large quantities of cinnamon to Somalia and Arabia from Ceylon and the Spice Islands. The source of the cinnamon and other spices is said to have been the best-kept secret of Arab and Somali merchants in their trade with the Roman and Greek world. The Romans and Greeks believed the source to have been the Somali Peninsula. The collusive agreement among Somali and Arab traders inflated the price of Indian and Chinese cinnamon in North Africa, the Near East, and Europe, and made the cinnamon trade a very profitable revenue generator, especially for the Somali merchants through whose hands large quantities were shipped across sea and land routes. Birth of Islam and the Middle Ages. Various Somali Muslim kingdoms were established around this period in the area. In the 14th century, the Zaila-based Adil Sultanate battled the forces of the Ethiopian Emperor Amdasayone I. The Ottoman Empire later occupied Berbera and environs in the 1500s. Muhammad Ali, Pasha of Egypt, subsequently established a foothold in the area between 1821 and 1841. Early modern sultanates. In the early modern period, successor states to the Adil Sultanate and Ajuran Sultanate began to flourish in Somalia. These included the Warsangali Sultanate. The first engagement between Somalis of the region and the British was the 1827 Articles of Friendship and Commerce between the tribe of Hadrawal and England. This was followed by a British treaty with the governor of Zaila in 1840. An engagement was then started between the British and elders of Habar Garhajis and Habar Tolia Allah clans of the Isaac in 1855, followed a year later by the conclusion of the Articles of Peace and Friendship between the Habarawal and East India Company. These engagements between the British and Somali clans culminated in the formal treaties the British signed with the henceforth British Somaliland clans, which took place between 1884 and 1886. Treaties were signed with the Habarawal, Gadabursi, Habar Tolia Allah, Habar Garhajis, Asa, and the Warsangali clans. This paved the way for the British to establish a protectorate in the region referred to as British Somaliland. The British garrisoned the protectorate from Aden and administered it as part of British India until 1898. British Somaliland was then administered by the Foreign Office until 1905, and afterwards by the Colonial Office. British Somaliland. The Somaliland Campaign, also called the Anglo-Somali War or the Dervish War, was a series of military expeditions that took place between 1900 and 1920 in the Horn of Africa, pitting the dervishes led by Muhammad Abdullah Hussein, nicknamed the Mad Mullah, against the British. The British were assisted in their offensives by the Ethiopians and Italians. During the First World War, 1914 to 1918, Hussein also received aid from the Ottomans, Germans and, for a time, from the Emperor Iyasah V of Ethiopia. The conflict ended when the British aerially bombed the dervish capital of Talay in February 1920. The fifth expedition of the Somaliland campaign in 1920 was the final British expedition against the dervish forces of Muhammad Abdullah Hussein, often called the Mad Mullah derogatorily by British, the Somali religious leader. Although the majority of the combat took place in January of the year, British troops had begun preparations for the assault as early as November 1919. The British forces included elements of the Royal Air Force and the Somaliland Camel Corps. After 3 weeks of battle, Hassan's dervishes were defeated, bringing an effective end to their 20-year resistance. The Italian conquest of British Somaliland was a military campaign in East Africa, which took place in August 1940 between forces of Italy and those of several British and Commonwealth countries. The Italian expedition was part of the East African Campaign. State of Somaliland. In May 1960, the British government stated that it would be prepared to grant independence to the then Protectorate of British Somaliland, with the intention that the territory would unite with the Italian-administered Trust Territory of Somaliland under Italian administration, the former Italian Somaliland. The Legislative Council of British Somaliland passed a resolution in April 1960 requesting independence and union with the Trust Territory of Somaliland, which was scheduled to gain independence on July 1 that year. The legislative councils of both territories agreed to this proposal following a joint conference in Mogadishu. On June 26, 1960, the former British Somaliland Protectorate briefly obtained independence as the State of Somaliland, with the Trust Territory of Somaliland following suit 5 days later. During its brief period of independence, the State of Somaliland garnered recognition from 35 sovereign states. The following day, on June 27, 1960, the newly convened Somaliland Legislative Assembly approved a bill that would formally allow for the union of the State of Somaliland with the Trust Territory of Somaliland on July 1, 1960. Somali Republic. The State of Somaliland was a short-lived independent state in the territory of present-day northwestern Somalia. It was the name assumed by the former British Somaliland Protectorate in the 5 days between independence from the United Kingdom on June 26, 1960. On July 1, 1960, the Protectorate and the Trust Territory of Somaliland, the former Italian Somaliland, united as planned to form the Somali Republic. Inspired by Somali nationalism, the Northerners were initially enthusiastic about the union. A government was formed by Abdullahi Isa, with Aden Abdullah Osman Dar as president and Abdurrashid Ali Sharmark as prime minister, later to become president, from 1967 to 1969. On July 20, 1961, and through a popular referendum, the Somali people ratified a new constitution, which was first drafted in 1960. The constitution had little support in the former Somaliland, and was believed to favor the South. Many Northerners boycotted the referendum in protest, and over 60% of those who voted in the North were against the new constitution. Regardless, the referendum passed, and Somaliland became quickly dominated by Southerners. As a result, dissatisfaction became widespread in the North, and support for the Union plummeted. British-trained Somaliland officers attempted a revolt to end the Union in December 1961. Their uprising failed, and Somaliland continued to be marginalized by the South during the next decades. In 1967, Muhammad Haji Ibrahim Magal became Prime Minister, a position to which he was appointed by Sharmark. Sharmark was assassinated 2 years later by one of his own bodyguards. His murder was quickly followed by a military coup d'état on October 21, 1969, the day after his funeral, in which the Somalian army seized power without encountering armed opposition. The putsch was spearheaded by Major General Mohammed Syed Barre, who at the time commanded the army. The new regime would go on to rule Somalia for the next 21 years. Somali National Movement, Barre persecution. The moral authority of Barre's government was gradually eroded, as many Somalis became disillusioned with life under military rule. By the mid-1980s, resistance movements supported by Ethiopia's communist Derg administration had sprung up across the country. Barre responded by ordering punitive measures against those he perceived as locally supporting the guerrillas, especially in the northern regions. The clampdown included bombing of cities, with the northwestern administrative center of Hargeisa, a Somali National Movement, SNM, stronghold, among the targeted areas in 1988. The bombardment was led by General Mohammed Said Hersi Morgan, Barre's son-in-law. According to Abu Jang and other scholars, the Barre regime rule was marked by a targeted brutal persecution of the Isaac clan. Mohammed Haji and Guriz and Chris Mullen state that the clampdown by the Barre regime against the Hargeisa-based Somali National Movement targeted the Isaac clan, to which most members of the SNM belonged. They refer to the clampdown as the Isaac Genocide or Hargeisa Holocaust. A United Nations investigation concluded that the crime of genocide was conceived, planned and perpetrated by the Somali government against the Isaac people. The number of civilian casualties is estimated to be between 50,000 to 100,000 according to various sources, while some reports estimate the total civilian deaths to be upwards of 200,000 Isaac civilians. Along with the deaths, Bar regime bombarded and razed the second and third largest cities in Somalia, Hargeisa and Barrow respectively. This displaced an estimated 400,000 local residents to Hartashik in Ethiopia. Another 400,000 individuals were also internally displaced. The counterinsurgency by the Bar regime against the SNM targeted the rebel group's civilian base of support, escalating into a genocidal onslaught against the Isaac clan. This led to anarchy and violent campaigns by fragmented militias, which then wrested power at a local level. The Bar regime's persecution was not limited to the Isaac, as it targeted other clans such as the Hawiye. The Bar regime collapsed in January 1991. Thereafter, as the political situation in Somaliland stabilized, the displaced people returned to their homes, the militias were demobilized or incorporated into the army, and tens of thousands of houses and businesses were reconstructed from rubble. Somali Civil War. Although the SNM at its inception had a unionist constitution, it eventually began to pursue independence, looking to secede from the rest of Somalia. Under the leadership of Abdirahman Ahmed Ali Toure, the local administration declared the northwestern Somali territories independent at a conference held in Barrow between April 27, 1991 and May 15, 1991. Toure then became the newly established Somaliland Polity's first president, but subsequently renounced the separatist platform in 1994 and began instead to publicly seek and advocate reconciliation with the rest of Somalia under a power-sharing federal system of governance. Muhammad Haji Ibrahim Magal was appointed as Toure's successor in 1993 by the Grand Conference of National Reconciliation in Boroma, which met for 4 months, leading to a gradual improvement in security, as well as a consolidation of the new territory. Magal was reappointed in 1997, and remained in power until his death on May 3, 2002. The vice president, Dahira Yale Kahin, who was during the 1980s the highest-ranking National Security Service, NSS, officer in Berbera in Syed Barre's government, was sworn in as president shortly afterwards. In 2003, Kahin became the first elected president of Somaliland. The war in southern Somalia between Islamist insurgents on the one hand, and the federal government of Somalia and its African Union allies on the other, has for the most part not directly affected Somaliland, which, like neighboring Puntland, has remained relatively stable. Politics and government. The Gurdi worked with rebel leaders to set up a new government, and was incorporated into the governance structure, becoming the Parliament's House of Elders. The government became in essence a power-sharing coalition of Somaliland's main clans, with seats in the upper and lower houses proportionally allocated to clans according to a predetermined formula, although not all clans are satisfied with their representation. In 2002, after several extensions of this interim government, Somaliland transitioned to multi-party democracy. The election was limited to 3 parties, in an attempt to create ideology-based elections rather than clan-based elections. As of December 2014, Somaliland has 3 political parties: the Peace, Unity, and Development Party, the Justice and Development Party, and Wadani. Under the Somaliland Constitution, a maximum of 3 political parties is allowed. The executive is led by an elected president, whose government includes a vice president and a council of ministers. The council of ministers, who are responsible for the normal running of government, are nominated by the president and approved by the Parliament's House of Representatives. The president must approve bills passed by the parliament before they come into effect. Presidential elections are confirmed by the National Elections Commission. The president can serve a maximum of 2 5-year terms. Legislative power is held by the bicameral parliament. Its upper house is the House of Elders, and the lower house is the House of Representatives. The lower house is chaired by Bashe Mohammed Farah. Each house has 82 members. Members of the House of Elders are elected indirectly by local communities for 6-year terms. The House of Elders shares power in passing laws with the House of Representatives, and also has the role of solving internal conflicts, and an exclusive power to extend the terms of the president and representatives under circumstances that make an election impossible. Members of the House of Representatives are directly elected by the people for 5-year terms. The House of Representatives shares voting power with the House of Elders, though it can pass a law that the House of Elders rejects if it votes for the law by a 2/3 majority, and has absolute power in financial matters and confirmation of presidential appointments, except for the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. However, the Parliament provides weak oversight of the executive branch. The judicial system is divided into district courts, which deal with matters of family law and succession, lawsuits for amounts up to 3 million SL, criminal cases punishable by up to 3 years imprisonment or 3 million SL fines, and crimes committed by juveniles, regional courts, which deal with lawsuits and criminal cases not within the jurisdiction of district courts, labor and employment claims, and local government elections, regional appeals courts, which deal with all appeals from district and regional courts, and the Supreme Court, which deals with issues between courts and in government, and reviews its own decisions, which is the highest court and also functions as the constitutional court. Somaliland nationality law defines who is a Somaliland citizen, as well as the procedures by which one may be naturalized into Somaliland citizenship or renounce it. The Somaliland government continues to apply the 1962 Penal Code of the Somali Republic. As such, homosexual acts are illegal in the territory. Freedom House ranks the Somaliland government as partly democratic. Seth Kaplan, 2011, argues that in contrast to southern Somalia and adjacent territories, Somaliland, the secessionist northwestern portion of Somalia, has built a more democratic mode of governance from the bottom up, with virtually no foreign assistance. Specifically, Kaplan suggests that Somaliland has the most democratic political system in the Horn of Africa because it has been largely insulated from the extremist elements in the rest of Somalia and has viable electoral and legislative systems as well as a robust private sector-dominated economy, unlike neighboring authoritarian governments. He largely attributes this to Somaliland's integration of customary laws and tradition with modern state structures, which he indicates most post-colonial states in Africa and the Middle East have not had the opportunity to do. Kaplan asserts that this has facilitated cohesiveness and conferred greater governmental legitimacy in Somaliland, as has the territory's comparatively homogeneous population, relatively equitable income distribution, common fear of the South, and absence of interference by outside forces, which has obliged local politicians to observe a degree of accountability. Foreign relations. Somaliland has political contacts with its neighbors Ethiopia and Djibouti, as well as with South Africa, Sweden, the United Kingdom and the micronation of Liberland. On January 17, 2007, the European Union, EU, sent a delegation for foreign affairs to discuss future cooperation. The African Union, AU, has also sent a foreign minister to discuss the future of international acknowledgement, and on 29 and January 30, 2007, the ministers stated that they would discuss acknowledgement with the organization's member states. In early 2006, the National Assembly of Wales extended an official invitation to the Somaliland government to attend the royal opening of the Synod in Cardiff. The move was seen as an act of recognition by the Welsh Assembly of the breakaway government's legitimacy. The Foreign and Commonwealth Office made no comment on the invitation. Wales is home to a significant Somali expatriate community from Somaliland. In 2007, a delegation led by President Kahin was present at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kampala, Uganda. Although Somaliland has applied to join the Commonwealth under observer status, its application is still pending. On September 24, 2010, Johnny Carson, Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, stated that the United States would be modifying its strategy in Somalia and would seek deeper engagement with the governments of Somaliland and Puntland while continuing to support the Somali transitional government. Carson said the U.S. would send aid workers and diplomats to Puntland and Somaliland and alluded to the possibility of future development projects. However, Carson emphasized that the U.S. would not extend formal recognition to either region. The then UK Minister for Africa, Henry Bellingham MP, met President Selanyo of Somaliland in November 2010 to discuss ways in which to increase the UK's engagement with Somaliland. President Selanyo said during his visit to London, We have been working with the international community, and the international community has been engaging with us, giving us assistance and working with us in our democratization and development programs. And we are very happy with the way the international community has been dealing with us, particularly the UK, the US, other European nations and our neighbors who continue to seek recognition. Recognition of Somaliland by the UK has also been supported by the UK Independence Party, which came third in the popular vote at the 2015 general election. The leader of UKIP, Nigel Farage, met with Ali Aden Owali, head of the Somaliland UK mission on Somaliland's National Day, 18th of May, in 2015, to express UKIP's support for Somaliland. Nigel Farage said that Somaliland has been a beacon of peace, democracy and the rule of law, in the Horn of Africa for the past 24 years. It is about time the UK and the rest of the international community recognized Somaliland's case for recognition. It's about time peace was rewarded. For the UK to turn its back on their legitimate demands for sovereignty, is wrong. It is extraordinary that we have not been lobbying for their admittance to the Commonwealth. In recent years we have supported the admission of countries such as Mozambique, which have no historic links to Britain, but Somaliland, a former protectorate, is left in the cold. This must change. In 2011, Somaliland and the neighboring Puntland region each entered a security-related Memorandum of Understanding with the Seychelles. Following the framework of an earlier agreement signed between the transitional federal government and the Seychelles, the memorandum is for the transfer of convicted persons to prisons in Puntland and Somaliland. Border disputes. Somaliland continues to claim the entire area of the former British Somaliland. It is currently in control of the western half of the former British Somaliland, with northeastern Makher having declared itself a separate, unrecognized autonomous state within Somalia in July 2007, and the disputed southeastern Sul state had been under the control of neighboring Puntland. A coalition of Gadabursi intellectuals hailing from the westernmost Adal province have threatened to secede if Somaliland's independence is recognized. Tensions between Puntland and Somaliland escalated into violence several times between 2002 and 2009. In October 2004, and again in April and October 2007, armed forces of Somaliland and Puntland clashed near the town of Los Anad, the capital of Sul region. In October 2007, Somaliland troops took control of the town. While celebrating Puntland's 11th anniversary on August 2, 2009, Puntland officials vowed to recapture Los Anad. While Somaliland claims independent statehood and therefore split up the old Somalia, Puntland works for the re-establishment of a united but federal Somali state. Somaliland forces took control of the town of Los Kori in eastern Sanaag on July 10, 2008, along with positions 5 kilometers, 3 miles, east of the town. The defense forces completed their operations on July 9, 2008 after the Makher and Puntland militia in the area left their positions, but control of the territory was later assumed by Puntland as Makher was incorporated into the autonomous region in January 2009. In the late 2000s, HBMSFC, Hagongkabad Badada Iomirianta SFC, a local unionist group based in Sanaag, was formed with the goal to establish its own regional administration, Sul, Sanaag, and Kane, or SFC. This later evolved into Katamo State, which was established in 2012. The local administration and its constituents does not recognize the Somaliland government's claim to sovereignty or to its territory. In 2010, the formation of a new autonomous region within a federal Somalia was also declared in the Adal province. Referred to as Odd Island or the Adal state, the local administration and the region's residents do not recognize the Somaliland government's claim to sovereignty or to their territory. Military. The Somaliland Armed Forces are the main military command in Somaliland. Along with the police force and all other internal security forces, they are overseen by Somaliland's Ministry of Defense. The current head of Somaliland's armed forces is the Minister of Defense, Mudane Ahmed Hajidami. The Somaliland Army consists of 12 divisions equipped primarily with light weaponry, though it is equipped with some howitzers and mobile rocket launchers. Its armored vehicles and tanks are mostly of Soviet design, though there are some aging Western vehicles and tanks in its arsenal. The Somaliland Navy, often referred to as a Coast Guard by the Associated Press, despite a crippling lack of equipment and formal training, has apparently had some success at curbing both piracy and illegal fishing within Somaliland waters. Administrative divisions. Regions. The following regions are taken from Michael Wall's State Formation in Somaliland, Bringing Deliberation to Institutionalism from 2011, Somaliland, The Strains of Success from 2015 and ActionAid, a humanitarian organization currently active in Somaliland. Geography. Somaliland is situated in northwestern Somalia. It lies between the 8 degrees and 0 minutes, 11 degrees and 30 minutes parallel north of the equator and between 42 degrees and 30 minutes, 49 degrees and 0 minutes meridian east of Greenwich. It is bordered by Djibouti to the west, Ethiopia to the south, and the Puntland region of Somalia to the east. Somaliland has a 740 kilometers, 460 miles, coastline with the majority lying along the Gulf of Aden. In terms of landmass, Somaliland's territory is comparable to that of Uruguay, with an area of 176,120 square kilometers, 68,000 square miles. Somaliland's climate is a mixture of wet and dry conditions. The northern part of the region is hilly, and in many places the altitude ranges between 900 and 2,100 meters, 3,000 and 6,900 feet, above sea level. The Adal, Sahel and Marudi Jeks, Wikuyi Galbeed, regions are fertile and mountainous, while Togdheer is mostly semi-desert with little fertile greenery around. The Adal region is also known for its offshore islands, coral reefs and mangroves. A scrub-covered, semi-desert plain referred as the Guban lies parallel to the Gulf of Aden littoral. With a width of 12 kilometers, 7.5 miles, in the west to as little as 2 kilometers, 1.2 miles, in the east, the plain is bisected by watercourses that are essentially beds of dry sand except during the rainy seasons. When the rains arrive, the Guban's low bushes and grass clumps transform into lush vegetation. This coastal strip is part of the Ethiopian xeric grasslands and shrublands ecoregion. Galmado is a mountain range in the northern part of the country. Extending from the northwest of Aragavo to several kilometers west of the city of Bosaso, it features Somalia's highest peak, Shimbiris, which sits at an elevation of about 2,416 meters, 7,927 feet. The rugged east-west ranges of the Karkar Mountains also lie to the interior of the Gulf of Aden littoral. In the central regions, the northern mountain ranges give way to shallow plateaus and typically dry watercourses that are referred to locally as the Ogo. The Ogo's western plateau, in turn, gradually merges into the Hod, an important grazing area for livestock. Climate. Somaliland is located north of the equator. It is semi-arid. The average daily temperatures range from 25 to 35 degrees Celsius, 77 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The sun passes vertically overhead twice a year, on 22nd of March and 23rd of September. Somaliland consists of 3 main topographic zones: 1. A coastal plain, Guban; 2. The coastal range, Ugo; 3. A plateau, Hod. The coastal plain, Guban, is a zone with high temperatures and low rainfall. Summer temperatures in the region easily average over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius. However, temperatures come down during the winter, and both human and livestock populations increase dramatically in the region. The coastal range, Ogo, is a high plateau to the immediate south of Guban. Its elevation ranges from 6,000 feet, 1,800 meters, above sea level in the west to 7,000 feet, 2,100 meters, in the east. Rainfall is heavier there than in Guban, although it varies considerably within the zone. The plateau, Hod, region lies to the south of Ogo Range. It is generally more heavily populated during the wet season, when surface water is available. It is also an important area for grazing. Somalilanders recognize 4 seasons in the year. Ku and Haga comprise spring and summer in that order, and Deir and Jil'al correspond to autumn and winter respectively. The average annual rainfall is 446 mm, 17.6 in some parts of country according to availability of rain gauge, and most of it comes during Gu and Deir. Gu, which is the first, or major, rainy season, late March, April, May, and early June, experiences the heaviest rainfall in Ogo Range and Hod. This constitutes the period of fresh grazing and abundant surface water. It is also the breeding season for livestock. Haga, from late June through August, is usually dry, although there are often some scattered showers in the Ogo range. These are known as Karen rains. Haga tends to be hot and windy in most parts of the country. Deer, September, October, and early November, which roughly corresponds to autumn, is the second, or minor, wet season. As the word minor suggests, the amount of precipitation is generally less than that of Gu. Jilal, or winter, falls in the coolest and driest months of the year, from late November to early March. It is a season of thirst. Had receive virtually no rainfall in winter. The rainfall in the Cuban zone, known as haze, comes from December to February. The humidity of the country varies from 63% in the dry season to 82% in the wet season. Economy. The Somaliland shilling, which cannot easily be exchanged outside Somaliland on account of the nation's lack of recognition, is regulated by the Bank of Somaliland, the central bank, which was established constitutionally in 1994. It may not be considered valid tender in disputed areas such as Ain or the district of Badon, which are not administered as part of Somaliland and continue to use the Somali shilling despite being claimed by the Somaliland government. Since Somaliland is unrecognized, international donors have found it difficult to provide aid. As a result, the government relies mainly upon tax receipts and remittances from the large Somali diaspora, which contributes immensely to Somaliland's economy. Remittances come to Somaliland through money transfer companies, the largest of which is Dahabshiil, one of the few Somali money transfer companies that conform to modern money transfer regulations. The World Bank estimates that remittances worth approximately $1 billion reach the Somalia annually from immigrants working in the Gulf states, Europe and the United States. Analysts say that Dahabshiil may handle around two-thirds of that figure and as much as half of it reaches Somaliland alone. Since the late 1990s, service provisions have significantly improved through limited government provisions and contributions from non-governmental organizations, religious groups, the international community, especially the diaspora, and the growing private sector. Local and municipal governments have been developing key public service provisions such as water in Hargeisa and education, electricity, and security in Berbera. In 2009, the Banque pour le Commerce et l'Industrie, Marouge, Samr, based in Djibouti, opened a branch in Hargeisa and became the first bank in the country since the 1990 collapse of the Commercial and Savings Bank of Somalia. In 2014, the Dahabshiil Bank International became the region's first commercial bank. In 2017, Premier Bank from Mogadishu opened a branch in Hargeisa. Various telecommunications firms also have branches in Somaliland. Among these companies is Telesom, one of the largest operators in Somaliland. Founded in 2002 with the objective of supplying the local market with telecommunications services such as GSM, fixed line, and internet access, it has an extensive network that covers all of Somaliland's major cities and more than 40 districts in both Somalia and Somaliland. Telesom also offers among the cheapest international calling rates at $0.2 less than its nearest competitor. Other telecommunication firms serving the region include Somtel, Telcom, and NationLink. Livestock is the backbone of Somaliland's economy. Sheep, camels, and cattle are shipped from the Berbera port and sent to Gulf Arab countries, such as Saudi Arabia. Agriculture is generally considered to be a potentially successful industry, especially in the production of cereals and horticulture. Mining also has potential, though simple quarrying represents the extent of current operations, despite the presence of diverse quantities of mineral deposits. Tourism. The rock art and caves at Lasgale, situated on the outskirts of Hargeisa, are a popular local tourist attraction. Totaling 10 caves, they were discovered by a French archaeological team in 2002 and are believed to date back around 5,000 years. The government and locals keep the cave paintings safe and only a restricted number of tourists are allowed entry. Other notable sites include the Freedom March in Hargeisa and the War Memorial in the city center. Natural attractions are very common around the region. The Nasa Upland are twin hills located on the outskirts of Hargeisa that Somalis in the region consider to be a majestic natural landmark. The Ministry of Tourism has also encouraged travelers to visit historic towns and cities in Somaliland. The historic town of Sheikh is located near Berbera and is home to old British colonial buildings that have remained untouched for over 40 years. Berbera also houses historic and impressive Ottoman architectural buildings. Another equally famous historic city is Isla. Zila was once part of the Ottoman Empire, a dependency of Yemen and Egypt and a major trade city during the 19th century. The city has been visited for its old colonial landmarks, offshore mangroves and coral reefs, towering cliffs, and beach. The nomadic culture of Somaliland has also attracted tourists. Most nomads live in the countryside. Transport. Bus services operate in Hargeisa, Barao, Gabali, Berbera, and Borma. There are also road transportation services between the major towns and adjacent villages, which are operated by different types of vehicles. Among these are taxis, four-wheel drives, minibuses and light goods vehicles, LGV. The most prominent airlines serving Somaliland is Dallo Airlines, a Somali-owned private carrier with regular international flights that emerged after Somali Airlines ceased operations. African Express Airways and Ethiopian Airlines also fly from airports in Somaliland to Djibouti City, Addis Ababa, Dubai, and Jeddah, and offer flights for the Hajj and Umrah pilgrimages via the Agal International Airport in Hargeisa. Other major airports in the region include the Berbera Airport. Ports. In June 2016, the Somaliland government signed an agreement with DP World to manage the strategic port of Berbera with the aim of enhancing productive capacity and acting as an alternative port for landlocked Ethiopia. Oil explorations. In August 2012, the Somaliland government awarded Colonial Energy license to explore oil within its territory. Results of a surface seep study completed early in 2015 confirmed the outstanding potential offered in SL-10B and SL-13 block and Dudewane block with estimated oil reserves of 1 billion barrel each. Colonial Energy is set to drill exploration well for SL-10B and SL-13 block in Barthab 20 km northwest of Ainabo by the end of 2018. Demographics. The Habarawal subclan of the Isaac form the majority of the population living in both the northern and western portions of the Waqooyi-Galbeed region, including the cities and towns of northern Hargeisa, Berbera, Gabali, Wajel, Arabzio, and Galabade. The Habarawal also have a strong presence in northern Togdheer region as well, principally around the town of Sheikh, and they also partially inhabit the city of Barao as well. The Habar Yunus and Cheetahgale subclans of the Isaac have a sizable presence among the population inhabiting the southern and eastern portions of Waqooyi-Galbeed region including southern Hargeisa and Salali. The Habar Yunus are also represented well in western Togdheer region, mainly in the towns of Udwane and western Barao. The Habar Yunus also form a majority of the population inhabiting the western and central areas of Sanaag region as well, including the regional capital Aragavo as well as Maid. The Habar Jeklo subclan of Isaac have a large presence in the western and northern parts of Sewell, eastern Togdheer region and southwestern Sanaag as well. The Habar Jeklo form a majority of the population living in eastern Barao as well as in Ainabo district and in the towns of Garadog and Selafwan. Eastern Sewell region's residents mainly hail from the Dolbahant, a subdivision of the Hardy Confederation of Darid subclans, and are concentrated at La Sanad. The Dolbahant clans also settle in the Buudal district in the Togdheer region, and the southern and eastern parts of Aragavo district in Sanaag. The Warsangali, another Hardy Darid subclan, constitute a large number of residents in the eastern Sanaag, and their population is mainly concentrated around Boskori. The Gadaborsi and Isa primarily live in the Udal region, with the Gadaborsi centered at Barama, and the Isa concentrated around the Djibouti border at Isla. Languages. Many people in Somaliland speak two of the three official languages, Somali, Arabic, and English, although the rate of bilingualism is lower in rural areas. Article 6 of the Constitution of 2001 designates the official language of Somaliland to be Somali, though Arabic is a mandatory subject in school and is used in mosques around the region and English is spoken and taught in schools. English was proclaimed an official language later, outside the Constitution. The Somali language belongs to the Cushitic branch of the Afro-Asiatic family. Its nearest relatives are the Afar and Oromo languages. Somali is the best documented of the Cushitic languages, with academic studies of it dating from before 1900. Somali dialects are divided into three main groups: Northern, Benadir, and May. Northern Somali, or Northern Central Somali, forms the basis for Standard Somali. Benadir, also known as Coastal Somali, is spoken on the Benadir coast from Kadali to south of Merka, including Mogadishu, as well as in the immediate hinterland. The coastal dialects have additional phonemes which do not exist in Standard Somali. May is principally spoken by the Digil and Mirifel, or Hanwan, clans in the southern areas of Somalia. Since Somali had long lost its ancient script, a number of writing systems have been used over the years for transcribing the language. Of these, the Somali alphabet is the most widely used, and has been the official writing script in Somalia since the government of former President of Somalia Siad Barre formally introduced it in October 1972. The script was developed by the Somali linguist Shire Jama Ahmed specifically for the Somali language, and uses all letters of the English-Latin alphabet except P, V and C. Besides Ahmed's Latin script, other orthographies that have been used for centuries for writing Somali include the long-established Arabic script and Wada'at's writing, in addition to various indigenous writing systems developed in the 20th century. Religion. With few exceptions, Somalis in Somaliland and elsewhere are Muslims, the majority belonging to the Sunni branch of Islam and the Shafi school of Islamic jurisprudence. As with southern Somali coastal towns such as Mogadishu and Merka, there is also a presence of Sufism, Islamic mysticism, particularly the Arab Rifaiya Tariqa. Through the influence of the diaspora from Yemen and the Gulf states, stricter Wahhabism also has a noticeable presence. Though traces of pre-Islamic traditional religion exist in Somaliland, Islam is dominant to the Somali sense of national identity. Many of the Somali social norms come from their religion. For example, most Somali women wear a hijab when they are in public. In addition, religious Somalis abstain from pork and alcohol, and also try to avoid receiving or paying any form of interest, usury. Muslims generally congregate on Friday afternoons for a sermon and group prayer. Under the Constitution of Somaliland, Islam is the state religion of Somaliland, and no laws may violate the principles of Sharia. The promotion of any religion other than Islam is illegal, and the state promotes Islamic tenets and discourages behavior contrary to Islamic morals. Somaliland has very few Christians. In 1913, during the early part of the colonial era, there were virtually no Christians in the Somali territories, with about 100 to 200 followers coming from the schools and orphanages of the handful of Catholic missions in the British Somaliland Protectorate. The small number of Christians in the region today mostly come from similar Catholic institutions in Aden, Djibouti, and Berbera. Somaliland falls within the episcopal area of the Horn of Africa as part of Somalia, under the Anglican Diocese of Egypt. However, there are no current congregations in the territory. The Roman Catholic Diocese of Mogadishu is designated to serve the area as part of Somalia. However, since 1990 there has been no Bishop of Mogadishu, and the Bishop of Djibouti acts as Apostolic Administrator. The Adventist mission also indicates that there are no Adventist members. Largest cities. Culture. Somaliland has a population of about 3.5 million people. As of 2006, the largest clan family in Somaliland is the aṣ-Ṣūmāl, making up 80% of the total population. The populations of 5 major cities in Somaliland, Hargeisa, Barao, Berbera, Arigavo and Gabali, are predominantly aṣ-Ṣūmāl. Of the minority clans, the Gadaborsi of the Dir clan comes second by population, and thirdly the Hardi of the Darid clan. The clan groupings of the Somali people are important social units, and have a central role in Somali culture and politics. Clans are patrilineal and are often divided into sub-clans, sometimes with many subdivisions. Somali society is traditionally ethnically endogamous. To extend ties of alliance, marriage is often to another ethnic Somali from a different clan. Thus, for example, a recent study observed that in 89 marriages contracted by men of the Dulbahant clan, 62% were with women of Dulbahant subclans other than those of their husbands, 33.7% were with women of surrounding clans of other clan families, aṣ-Ṣūmāl, 28, Hawiye, 4.3% were with women of other clans of the Darid clan family, Majerteam 2, Ogaden 1. cuisine. It is considered polite for one to leave a little bit of food on one's plate after finishing a meal at another's home. This tells the host that one has been given enough food. If one were to clean their plate, that would indicate that one is still hungry. Most Somalis do not take this rule so seriously, but it is certainly not impolite to leave a few bits of food on one's plate. Somali breakfast typically includes a flatbread called maha, injera, as well as liver, toast, haraku, cereal, and porridge made of millet or cornmeal. Lunch can be a mixture of rice or pasta with meat and sauce. Also consumed during lunchtime is a traditional soup referred to as maraq, which is also part of Yemeni cuisine. Maraq is made of vegetables, meat and beans and is usually eaten with flatbread or pita bread. Later in the day, a latter meal is served that includes beans, ful madam, muffo, patties made of oats or corn, or a salad with moralaha/injera. Arts. Islam and poetry have been described as the twin pillars of Somali culture. Somali poetry is mainly oral, with both male and female poets. They use things that are common in the Somali language as metaphors. Almost all Somalis are Sunni Muslims, and Islam is vitally important to the Somali sense of national identity. Most Somalis do not belong to a specific mosque or sect and can pray in any mosque they find. Celebrations come in the form of religious festivities. Two of the most important are Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr, which marks the end of the fasting month. Families get dressed up to visit one another, and money is donated to the poor. Other holidays include 26th of June and 18th of May, which celebrate British Somaliland's independence and the Somaliland region's establishment, respectively. The latter, however, is not recognized by the international community. In the nomadic culture, where one's possessions are frequently moved, there is little reason for the plastic arts to be highly developed. Somalis embellish and decorate their woven and wooden milk jugs, hamo. The most decorative jugs are made in Siriga Abo, as well as wooden headrests. Traditional dance is also important, though mainly as a form of courtship among young people. One such dance, known as Chia or Somali, is a local favorite. An important form of art in Somali culture is henna art. The custom of applying henna dates back to antiquity. During special occasions, a Somali woman's hands and feet are expected to be covered in decorative mendhi. Girls and women usually apply or decorate their hands and feet in henna on festive celebrations like Eid or weddings. The henna designs vary from very simple to highly intricate. Somali designs vary, with some more modern and simple while others are traditional and intricate. Traditionally, only women apply it as body art, as it is considered a feminine custom. Henna is not only applied on the hands and feet but is also used as a dye. Somali men and women alike use henna as a dye to change their hair color. Women are free to apply henna on their hair, as most of the time they are wearing a hijab on their hair, as most of the time they are wearing a hijab on their hair, as most of the time they are wearing a hijab on their hair, as most of the time they are wearing a hijab on their hair, as most of the time they are wearing a hijab on their hair, as most of the time they are wearing a hijab on their